Welcome to Tech Thoughts. It's the 27th of August, and with me I have Inge Heydorn. Good morning, and what's happening on the market right now?
We already talked about the three things we're focusing on once again, COVID, the inflation and growth. But this week really it's about watching the comments coming up from Mr. Powell from Jackson Hole, which is web-based this year, but will definitely be something to watch now on Friday. So that's the key. On top of that, we have had now the first industrialized country raising interest rates since COVID started, with South Korea raising interest rates. So that's really what the market is looking at. But we have been slowly heading north. The market has been heading north slowly here in the last few days. Another thing I would like to add then, when we are at the point of inflation, is that one of the companies we have talked about a lot and we like is TSMC, which is the global leader in production for semiconductors. So going into the iPhones and PlayStations and cars and so on. They just sent out a letter to clients stating now that they will increase prices by roughly 20% from the 1st of January next year. So another sign of inflation, another good sign for us owning TSMC, that it's still tightness and so on. So that's good news. So the last thing from my side before we start talking a little bit about numbers that came out this week from Salesforce is the SEMI organization for semi-capital equipment numbers came out last night, and it's July. So very, very strong numbers, really showing an acceleration from Q2 to Q3, which is really in line with our view. And that's going to be really interesting to see now how second half is going to be stronger really than the first half. So it's not about the shortness in the industry or if we're getting back to full supply or so on. This is about underlying long-term demand and the fact that these vendors are producing and selling everything. So it's all about getting demand, so supply out in the marketplace. Then we have Salesforce reported good numbers this week, Johan.
Yes, they did. They were strong across the board, and they raised guidance, which a lot of companies have done now when they have seen the first half of the year. So organic growth for this year is pointing at 20%, which the market liked and traded the share up 2-3% yesterday. Also, it was interesting news from their Slack acquisition. They will now build the Slack platform as the standard UI and UX for Sales Cloud and Marketing Cloud, so you can access all those applications from within Slack. And management also highlighted that focus now will not be on large acquisitions, since they've done quite a few the last years. Now the focus will be more on margin improvements. And the company is, if you compare with other SaaS companies which trade around 12-15% times at the average, Salesforce is quite cheap at 8 times next 12 months sales. And we had another company reporting this week, which is Snowflake, which is a hyped company. It's of course a bit justified, since they grew over 100% and had a record high 169% retention rate, which is I think almost the strongest of the listed companies. But Snowflake trades at 58 times revenue. So compared to the 8 times for Salesforce, it's kind of a different world. What are you saying?
I totally agree, and we like Salesforce. There's no doubt about it. And I think the interesting thing here is that the Salesforce has always been like around the corner company in terms of thinking from investors. It's like, oh, we're growing, and now they'll stop buying things and we'll get margin traction, and it's never happened. This time around, it's really happening. Until they feel they want to buy something again. But now, for the moment, it's really happening. they beat the margin guidance, but their own guidance by 2 percentage points, so 200 basis points this quarter, and they're guiding higher. So it's a really good story. And they are growing the margin. So it's a double whammy, what we call it, on the bottom line. And they're doing a lot of things right at this point in time. So it's definitely something we like.
And they're growing in a lot of verticals. So they also realized that the pure sales cloud, that addressable market is not big enough. So they've really expanded with both the marketing cloud and the service cloud. And it's interesting that they have a lot of really big customer wins. So as a Swede, it's nice to see that they win IKEA as a global client. They're also very active on governmental contracts in both the US and Europe.
I also think it's interesting with the Slack acquisitions. They're getting closer and closer to be a head-on competition to Microsoft. So we will see what happens here, but it's there. From our side, I think we're seeing a company doing a lot of the right things at this point in time. They're
going head to head against Microsoft on a lot of products, Teams versus Slack, and more of the software start to really compete. So it'll be interesting to see if they also break the $1 trillion and $2 trillion market cap barrier soon. Mark Benioff is a really cool leader there. So and he has a very tight vision for the future, and he was also almost the founder, the creator of the modern cloud industry. So it's definitely a really strong leader. Great. I think that was it for today. Or do you have any final words, Inge?
No, we'll come back next week again.
See you then.